Hi, I'm James Delgado, and I'm Director of Maritime Heritage in the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries in the United States.
And today, just wanted to ask you, as one of the keynote speakers of the conference, what your thoughts on the state of underwater cultural heritage in the Asia-Pacific region and your hopes for the conference.
The state of underwater cultural heritage in the Asia-Pacific region is one of growth, of new opportunities, of recognition. And I say that given that decades ago, as underwater nautical maritime archaeology began as a scientific discipline, as people began paying attention to underwater cultural heritage, the focus was really on two areas, namely the Caribbean and the Mediterranean. That extended throughout the rest of Europe. It extended into the United States and Australia and another number of other nations, but conspicuously absent, or so it seemed, was Asia, Latin America, Oceania itself. I don't think that was because work wasn't happening. I think it was because, quite frankly, most people in the West weren't reading or understood those languages and faced a barrier, perhaps, in seeing what was happening. But I think what also came to pass as well was the realization in these parts of the world, in Latin America, in Asia, that this approach to science, that this underwater cultural heritage was something that needed to happen increasingly. It needed to happen with more people being involved, and it needed to happen in a way that was, frankly, post-colonial. The old model of an institute that would go into a country, excavate and do a project, bringing in their own students, their own people, and having the locals along to drive the boat and fill the tanks, really wasn't going to cut it anymore. Having said that, too, I think one of the great things that institutes did, like INA and others, was to have students come from these other countries to learn, to take that knowledge, that experience back, and to create ultimately their own institutes, their own academic programs, their own government programs as well, and get going with it. And in that, excitingly now, what you see are strong programs happening in China, in Japan, in Vietnam. You see it happening in Oceania as well. You see students returning who have studied and also now link what they've learned elsewhere with traditional knowledge from discussions with their own elders, and in that extending the idea of underwater cultural heritage beyond the shipwreck and beyond the stone structure to human aspects of behavior, looking at how we as a species have interacted with the ocean environment and how that is reflected not only archaeologically but culturally. The idea of a biocultural resource in the sacred nature of whales and sharks and fish and areas on the ocean floor or on the surface of the ocean itself. That has better informed and driven a transformation that I think in large measure has been happening here in the Pacific that has altered the face of nautical maritime archaeology and our understanding and our approach to underwater cultural heritage. The other thing I think that's important as well has been, with the increase in more articles and books, I don't read Wenwu, but I do know that incredible scholarship is coming out of China. I have seen some of the scholarship coming out of Vietnam, seeing it happen in India, in Sri Lanka, seeing it happening in Japan, increasingly in other spots as well. And in that, and with a conference like this, the opportunity to share and to exchange, to debate, and to begin the process of a more comprehensive analysis that comes through multiple voices being heard and different people putting their perspectives in. That's perhaps the most powerful thing of all. This conference has been tremendous to be at and to see all the nations represented, and in particular to see everybody there taking notes and talking with each other, as in any conference. The best part of it is the stuff that happens at these tables after the sessions, inspired by what they've seen or heard, and thus it begins the great exchange of knowledge and of experience, which has always been a big part of the ocean world anyway.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.